I called my local BMW dealer because I was looking for a track dedicated motorcycle. The 1199 is getting a little long on the tooth. I'm up around 35,000, actually a little bit over 35,000 miles. This is my daily, this is my everyday bike, and I really don't feel like tooling on it on the track. So I was going to get a dedicated track bike, and I was looking at a number of different motorcycles. Beautiful, look at that. Namely the Yamaha R1, the Aprilia RSV4 1100. I actually rode that bike, test rode it back in September, did a video on it. If you want to check that out. The 1103cc Panigale V4, that's a great bike. And then the BMW S1000RR, the latest generation. And the dealer salesman told me that they only had one bike. And the reason they only has one bike is because of production issues. And the reason there are production issues is the same reason that I'm making this video. In fact, there are 8 reasons why you should not buy a new S1000RR right now. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy the bike, it's a great bike, but you should at least be leery buying a new bike right now. And I'm going to go over those reasons in this video. Proceed to the route. What is the route?
Alert. I might just throw a random fry in the middle. Oh, who's faster? That was good.
These look like lemons. Oh, they're oranges. Little baby oranges. I'm actually headed out to Ojai. It's about an hour northwest of where I live. And there's a popular loop there. A lot of people like to ride their motorcycles out there. 160 to Route 33. That's where we're headed. Now, all the reasons I'm going to give you more or less boil down to the fact that BMW released the bike too early. They released it this year as a 2020. It really should have been released as a 2021, this spring, where they had ironed out all the niggles with the bike. But personally, I think what happened is Ducati caught a lot of companies off guard with the new V4 Panigale. It's the best-selling sport bike. It's a very popular bike. People are really interested in it. In the same way that the S1000 caught all the other motorcycle companies sleeping in 2009, when they launched the S1000RR, Ducati caught all the motorcycle companies, including BMW, sleeping with the new V4 Panigale. So I think BMW scrambled a bit to release that bike, and it just wasn't ready. Now, the first reason you should not buy a new S1000RR is because it's very difficult to get one right now. When I spoke to the dealer, they only had one in stock, and it was an M, and I'm not looking for an M. And they won't have another one for at least a month, and then I think they're only going to have 2. So a lot of people have their orders in for bikes right now, and they can't get one. And the main reason for that is they're having supplier chain issues with both their vendors and the tooling. They can't get parts, they can't get tooling in time to fill orders. So they've got a backlog of orders, and that's basically because they just didn't have their supplier chain properly aligned with the launch of the bike, and they got caught off guard, and now they're trying to make up for it. The second reason you should not buy a new S1000RR is because they have engine case cracking issues. Now, there isn't a lot of information on what's causing this issue, but from what I understand, the engine cases are failing, and they've had to do a material change. Now, I don't know if it was just a heat treat or alloying change to the aluminum casting, or a different manufacturing method. Gotta get this thing in race mode. Things all over the place. But in any case, they had to put in an engineering design change order and to revise the engine cases. So that's where they are with that. Alright, so the third reason you should not buy a new S1000RR is because I guess BMW had some issues in machining the engine case oil passageways, which is starving the transmission or the gearbox for oil. So this is causing shifting issues. It's also causing premature wear for transmissions. Oh, more oranges. So some people have complained of shifting issues, whirring noises, or whining noises from the gearbox. Again, BMW is correcting that issue. I'm gonna go left here. Oh, look at all these friggin' oranges. Oh, look at those beautiful palm trees. Oh yeah! Alright, so the fourth reason I would not buy a new S1000RR is that there's a recall on the hoses that connect to the oil cooler on the motorcycle. So those hoses can leak, or at least the fittings can leak, and splash oil onto the rear tire. It creates a safety hazard. So there's a recall for that issue, and it's probably something that's easy to clear up, but it is an issue. So if you have an S1000, you should bring your bike into the dealer so they can correct that. Okay, so reason number 5 I wouldn't buy a new S1000 has to do with the brakes. So as you know, BMW got away from the Brembo braking system and engineered their own braking system using Hayes. And they've had a number of issues with that front caliper, including brake fade. This is a problem that most people noticed even during the press launch of the motorcycle, that the brakes do tend to fade with heavy track use. Now, to correct this problem, BMW has released an overhaul kit to the dealers. So if you have an S1000, you can bring it into the dealer. Combine that with the fact that BMW reused their master cylinder, their brake master cylinder, from the previous generation motorcycle. Now, that master cylinder had issues. A lot of people replaced that master cylinder, especially people that were doing a lot of track days. This friggin' Jim woke up too. Of high-end power. It really is the perfect motor. For just casual street riding or track riding. There's some nice roads up here. I've never been on these roads. The sixth reason I would not buy a new S1000RR is because the mid-range power on the bike is somewhat neutered. Now, this is only really for the bike that's sold in the United States. The European versions don't have that issue, and I think the US just probably has tighter emission standards. So a number of people have remarked that the bike does lack some mid-range power, which is too bad because that bike rips. I mean, BMW claims 207 horsepower at the crank, but that bike dyno's consistently 200 horsepower to the rear wheel. So that thing's putting out, you know, in the 215 horsepower range. Now that's something that can be easily corrected, I'm sure, at the dealer, or if you can flash the ECU. But it is a niggle and it's a pain in the ass if you're buying an expensive, exotic, new hyper bike, new leader bike, any motorcycle, if you have to deal with that crap. Now the seventh reason I would not buy a new S1000RR is because it doesn't have friggin' proper taillights. One of the cool things about the last generation bike was the quirky styling. Some people loved it, some people hated it. Yeah, it divided opinions, but it was definitely an interestingly styled motorcycle. It had the asymmetrical headlights. It had those side heat extractors on one side. And it had that really cool jewel taillight. But the new S1000RR does not have a traditional taillight. The brake lights are integrated with the turn signals. And BMW says that is to, you know, ease or facilitate track days, so you can just pull the tail boom off as one unit, and the tail lights, the brake lights, and the turn signals come with it. But as a mechanical engineer who's gone through a lot of cost reductions, I can spot a cost reduction from a mile away. BMW packed a ton of technology into that motorcycle, into the engine, transmission, the rider aids and electronics. There is a ton of engineering and technical dollars packed into that motorcycle. So you've got to cut costs somewhere else, and unfortunately that came down to the bodywork and some of the ancillary electronics like the turn signals and the taillights. Personally, I think the new S1000RR styling is just kind of generic. And again, it's subjective. You might love the bike, but aesthetically, I just don't think it's as cool as the last generation bike. Now, the last reason I would not buy a new S1000RR kind of circles back to my first reason that I opened the video with, which is you can't test ride one right now. BMW has such a limited number of bikes on the showroom floor that it's very difficult to get a hold of a demo bike, to take one for a whip. And if you're going to spend $20,000-ish for a motorcycle, you should be able to test ride it first. Now, interestingly, at the Long Beach Motor Show, they had, I think, 2 or 3 new S1000RRs to test, which I thought was really cool. But on those guided rides, you really can't get a feel for what the motorcycle is like. A lot of these guys on the road bikes, they friggin' rip on these downhills. They're pretty fast. They'll do 45 miles an hour, sometimes 50 on these twisty roads. I'm not kidding you. The only reason they're going this speed is because that guy's holding them up. Look, he's going to go for the pass. Ducati caught a lot of the motorcycle industry sleeping when they released the V4 Panigale. If you look at their marketing strategy, they've just been one step ahead of BMW the whole way. You know, they released the V4, you know, early, and then when the S1000RR came out, they released the V4R to put the kibosh on that and steal all the press. And once BMW started to have some of the niggles worked out with the S1000, and a lot of people were test riding them, then Ducati released the V4 Street Fighter, which again stole a lot of the press. No one saw that coming. Everyone thought that Ducati would just continue using their V-twins, and they took their MotoGP technology, adapted it to the street, but kept a lot of the MotoGP pedigree. And yeah, it's going to sound like I'm, you know, a Ducatista and that I'm a brand loyalist, but I like all motorcycles. You know, I own a Honda as well, and I really like that bike. As I prefaced this video, I was thinking of getting a Yamaha R1. I've yet to ride one. I rode the MT-10 at the Long Beach Motor Show. Right, you're in those guided tours, so I'm not going to be able to explore the virtues of the MT-10. I don't know if you've seen Matt Farah. He comes up here to do his one takes. I've also seen him up on Angela's Crest out that way. If you guys are curious where Matt Farah is filming his videos. This goes around. Let's check it out. Woo! Wow, look at these roads winding through the valley. Look at that beauty. Up here in Ojai, California, about an hour and a half west of Los Angeles. Just ripping through the canyons up here. These roads go on forever. So Route 160 to Route 33, headed to the Ojai Deer Lodge, I think is the name of it. Only been up here one time before, and only part of this road. Haven't been up this far. You can see the lake reservoir off there in the distance. Some campgrounds out that way. Really beautiful country. The old Ducati. There she is. Oh yeah. Looking good in the sunlight.